In 1995, American Airlines killed its Nashville hub. At its peak, that hub ran 265 flights a day to 79 cities, nonstop to London, nonstop to Toronto. Then, American announced Nashville would no longer be a hub, laid off hundreds of people, and consolidated its Southeast operations at Dallas. We know what usually happens to a city when that occurs. St. Louis lost its hub and never recovered. Pittsburgh went from a top 10 American hub to a regional airport. Cincinnati lost roughly 90% of its flights. Memphis, Tennessee's other big airport, lost its passenger hub in 2013 and turned into a cargo field. Nashville did the opposite. 30 years after being abandoned, Nashville moved more than 25 million passengers in a single year. It's now a top 25 U.S. airport with over 100 nonstop destinations, $4.5 billion of construction in the ground, and a passenger count that has more than doubled in a decade. And here's the part that makes it the strangest airport story in America right now. It did all of that without a hub. No airline connects passengers through Nashville. Not one. Every major U.S. carrier is expanding there simultaneously. Southwest, Delta, American, United, Frontier, Allegiant, plus British Airways, Aer Lingus, Icelandair, Air Canada, and Porter, all fighting for the same airport, and none of them are building the one thing that normally makes an airport matter. To understand why, you have to understand what actually killed the hub in 1995, because it wasn't Nashville's fault. American opened Nashville on April 15, 1986, 60 flights across 3 connecting banks. On paper, it worked. By April 1993, Nashville was pushing 265 daily departures. But look closer at who was on those planes. They weren't from Nashville, they were passing through it. A hub's job is to gather passengers from small cities and funnel them onto bigger flights. And the money in that business is thin. Connecting passengers shop on price. They'll take whoever is cheapest because they don't care which airport they change planes in. So American was flying enormous volume at low fares in a city that wasn't yet big enough to fill those planes locally. Then the early 90s recession hit, and a small Texas airline that had arrived in Nashville the same year American did started undercutting it on every route it touched. That airline was Southwest. By 1995, American had seen enough. It announced Nashville would no longer be a hub. Southwest subleased American's abandoned gates and took roughly 47% of the market almost overnight. Now hold that number in your head, 47%, because we're going to come back to it, and what it becomes is the whole story. Here's what nobody realized in 1995. American failed because Nashville was a bad airport. American failed because it was running the wrong business model in a city that hadn't grown into itself yet. The connecting hub died. The city it was built on top of was just getting started.
What happened next wasn't an aviation story at all. Tennessee has no state income tax. That single fact turned Middle Tennessee into one of the most aggressive corporate relocation magnets in the country. The metro area has been adding tens of thousands of residents a year, growing over 8% since 2020. Oracle announced its new global headquarters in Nashville, a $1 billion East Bank campus targeting thousands of jobs. AllianceBernstein moved its headquarters out of Manhattan. Amazon, Mitsubishi Motors North America, and dozens of other companies followed. But the deeper engine is healthcare. Nashville is home to more than 900 healthcare companies, anchored by HCA, the largest for-profit hospital system in the United States and the city's biggest employer. Nashville is now where American healthcare's biggest for-profit operator and one of the world's largest enterprise software companies both plant their flags in the same square mile. Then there's the other economy. Nashville visitors spent a record $11.2 billion in a single year, roughly $30 million a day, across nearly 17 million visitors. The Grand Ole Opry hit its 100th anniversary. A new stadium is coming. Nashville is a World Cup host city. And the Bachelorette thing is not a joke. Nashville is consistently a top 3 bachelorette destination in America, which produces something airlines rarely see in one place: large groups booked months in advance, flying on Thursdays and Sundays, completely insensitive to schedule quality. Add it up, and you get the rarest asset in U.S. aviation, a market where almost everyone flying is either starting or ending their trip there. Origin and destination traffic. The passengers airlines fight hardest for, because they book direct, pay more, and don't compare connections. Nashville became a city that generates its own demand, which is exactly why the fight for it got vicious.
Southwest didn't just win Nashville, it relocated its entire Southeast strategy there. Southwest inherited a large Atlanta operation from its AirTran merger, and look at what it did with it. In 3 years, Southwest cut its Atlanta flying by more than half while pushing Nashville to a record 190 peak day departures, the largest Southwest operation the airport has ever seen. It opened its 12th company crew base at Nashville. It launched the first intra-Tennessee flying in its history, Nashville to Memphis. It went back into Albuquerque after a 37-year absence. It added Cabo, Punta Cana, Montego Bay, Costa Rica. Remember the 47% I told you to hold on to? Southwest now controls roughly 54% of everything moving through Nashville, about 3 times the size of the second largest airline there. 30 years after American walked away, Southwest owns more of this airport than American ever did. That's fortress territory. But here's the twist that makes this the most interesting airline story in America. The Southwest that conquered Nashville in the 90s won by being the opposite of American. Free bags, no assigned seats, no fees. That personality was the product. That airline no longer exists. In 2025, Southwest ended free checked bags after decades of it being the entire pitch, and the fees have gone up since. In early 2026, it ended 53 years of open seating and moved to assigned and premium seating. It added a stripped-down basic fare. It flew red-eyes for the first time. It carried out the first mass corporate layoff in its history. Almost all of it traces back to one pressure point: the activist investor Elliott Management, which took a large stake, forced its way onto the board, and demanded Southwest start behaving like every other airline. So Southwest is defending the biggest fortress it has ever built in the Southeast, while dismantling the identity that built it. And every fee it adds erodes the reason to pick Southwest over the carriers circling below. Which brings us to the moment the whole board got flipped over. In early May 2026, after 34 years, Spirit Airlines shut down. Not restructured, not downsized, stopped. Flights canceled mid-schedule, passengers stranded in the middle of trips. One Nashville resident told local news she had to find $1,300 just to get herself home. Nashville lost an entire low-fare competitor overnight, and what happened next tells you exactly how badly airlines want this airport. Frontier moved first and hardest, adding new Nashville flying, including Phoenix and Las Vegas, going head-to-head with Southwest on its home turf. Roughly 80% of Frontier's newest domestic routes nationally are direct replacements of Spirit's. JetBlue picked up former Spirit routes into Nashville. Allegiant kept adding small city leisure flying that nobody else wants. Meanwhile, the legacy carriers hold very different positions. American, the airline that walked away in 1995, is back to being the second largest carrier at Nashville, feeding its own hubs at Charlotte, Dallas, Philadelphia, and Miami. Delta runs Nashville as a spoke, adding leisure flying like Cancun, while pouring its actual focus city ambition into Austin instead. United is the smallest of the three, running about 27 daily departures purely to feed its own hubs. Then there's the part that shouldn't be possible for a non-hub airport, the international board. British Airways has flown Heathrow to Nashville since 2018, the city's first long-haul since the American hub era, and upgraded the route to the Airbus A350. Aer Lingus launched Dublin on the Airbus A321 XLR, one of the longest narrow-body routes ever flown. Icelandair opened Reykjavik and extended it on strong demand. Air Canada and WestJet fly north. Porter added Toronto's downtown airport in May 2026.
5 transatlantic and cross-border operators at an airport where nobody connects. They're all there for the same reason: local passengers paying local fares.
So the airport is spending accordingly. $4.5 billion since 2017. First, the BNA Vision program, now a roughly $3 billion expansion called New Horizon. A new Concourse D extension opened in 2025, taking that concourse from 6 gates to 11, ending in an outdoor terrace built as a giant circular skylight shaped like a vinyl record. Concourse A is being demolished and rebuilt entirely, adding 16 gates and reopening in 2028. A new baggage system sized for 40 million passengers, a consolidated rental car complex, a rebuilt roadway network, and behind all of it, master plans for a second terminal in the late 2030s. And yet, after all of that, Nashville still won't be a hub. Because a hub isn't gates, it's geometry. It's the ability to land dozens of aircraft inside a tight window, walk every passenger between concourses fast, and launch them all again. Nashville's terminal was never built for that, and the ramp congestion between concourses works against it. Southwest, meanwhile, doesn't want it. Its whole model is point-to-point, and unlike Delta in Salt Lake City or Seattle, Southwest has historically been reluctant to co-fund the infrastructure that would change that. Which leaves Nashville in a genuinely unusual position. It has the growth of a hub city, the international route map of a hub city, and the construction budget of a hub city, powered entirely by people who actually want to be in Nashville. That's a stronger business than American ever had there. It's also a more fragile one. Connecting hubs survive recessions by rerouting traffic. Origin and destination markets don't. If tourism cools or the corporate relocations slow, there's no connecting bank underneath to catch the fall. Nashville's airport is a direct bet on the city, with no hedge. So, here's what to watch. Not route announcements, money. If Southwest ever agrees to help fund that second terminal, it has decided to build a real hub, and the fight is over. If Delta or United commits a crew base, the legacy carriers think they can take share from Southwest directly. And if a ULCC ever pushes Southwest's 54% share downward, the fortress is cracking. Because American Airlines already ran the experiment here once. It built the hub, filled it with people who didn't care where they were, and walked away. 30 years later, everyone is flying to Nashville because they want to be in Nashville. That turned out to be worth far more.